we are live.
Hey everybody, it's Dave with DII. Daniel's out in cyberspace, so we're doing this together so you can see him on the screen here. There
Actually, you can't see me.
Oh, he can't see you. You're like really super small. You haven't even come on yet. Anyway, we're trying to mix it up a little bit today and talk all about the handpan. And so if you have any questions, feel free to enter them into the little comments section. We'll do our best to answer them. So things we're going to talk about today is scales, how to play, some harmonic ideas, the finishes, the different kind of metals and stuff like that handpans are made out of, cleaning them, and the magical question about 440 hertz versus 432 hertz. So we're going to talk about all those things, plus potentially more if you guys have any questions. So feel free to put them in the comments, or just even say hi. Just say, hey, what's up? We're from Tennessee or whatever. It'd be great to hear from you. So Daniel, are you there?
Yes, I am, Dave. How you doing?
Right on. How you doing, Daniel?
Good. Here, I'll come in. Bing. Hello, everybody.
Are you there? All right, right.
Yes.
So what have you been up to recently, Daniel?
Basically, a lot of stuff. There's been a lot of customers for rentals. Rentals have been big.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And actually, it's kind of crazy because the more we think the handpan has been, everybody knows about the handpan. I find somebody that doesn't. So
not everybody does.
No, it's pretty crazy, and it's getting found all the time, and I find myself retelling the same stories over and over again.
Exactly.
It's kind of cool.
Like the same stories over and over again.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So let's get started. So let's talk about some scales, and just some people have questions about scales all the time. We've kind of refined our scales down here at DII to basically our primary D minor Celtic minor, which sometimes we call it the sunset scale, but predominantly throughout the world people call it Celtic minor. So there's two names. Sometimes there might be even a third name. I think I've even heard somebody else call it an Amara, I think. But it's all the same notes. So like for instance on this scale here, the note names would be D, A, C, D, E, F, G, A, C. So that's the way they sound here. Sometimes it ends on A and it doesn't go all the way up to the high C. Even if it does that, it's still called a Celtic minor, or like we sometimes call it sunset. But we're just adding another C because there's already a C down here, A, and then C. So we have an A here and a C. So since it's the same note, it's all kind of part of the same scale. So that's kind of how the scales work on these handpans. Sometimes you'll have notes on the bottom, like this one has a G here and a B natural there and an F over here. And you can play them while playing the top notes and the bottom notes. So it's just kind of fun. It gives you some other options to play with on the handpan and explore some different musical ideas. Then let me just show you another one over here. We've had this one here in the shop, and it's a pretty cool scale. I like it a lot.
Dave, we already have a question.
Already?
Yeah, we already got questions, man. That's crazy.
Okay, go.
All right, here we go. Chris the Canadian, he's asking. Let me add it to the broadcast. Boom.
Chris the Canadian, I like that.
Chris the Canadian.
Yeah.
Hi, Dave. Do you hammer and or press dimples to specific depth, or is it done by look and feel?
A building question.
Yeah.
Okay, so so I actually use rubber. So I've got a metal die that has a little oval opening in the metal die, and then I just use rubber with a press, and it presses in that shape into there. So I pretty much do full force on the press, which just pushes it down whatever amount that rubber will push the steel into. There are different makers that use hammers to put the dents in there for the dimples. There's different methods of creating dimples, like you might have a male-female steel die where it's like exactly the same every time, in which case you might be able to change the depth on those. But since I use the rubber, it just kind of does its normal rubber thing, and so it just fills that space. And so whatever that pressure is that I put on those two dies, it just fills that space. So I do kind of, you can sometimes add a little bit more or remove rubber to make it shallower or deeper, but usually I just try to add it to make it fill the space evenly. So I'm not really thinking about so much how deep it is. Occasionally I think about how deep it is, but There you go. So that's how I do it.
All right, Chris. That's a great question. Cool. We have a hi all from Carson City, Nevada. Marsh.
Yo,
Boyer.
Carson City.
Yeah, I think I have a question from him, but we'll get to that one later. But
okay.
Hey, Marsh, how you doing? And here we go.
Yeah. All right, so let me just real quick touch on these scales again. So the one that I just playing previously, which is our standard scale here at DII, is D minor Celtic minor. We really like it. It's got a really beautiful even sound. But there's other scales out there that also work. Sometimes certain scales won't work because frequently like one note will sound bad. And that's something that I learned early on when I was building handpans, and then I realized all the other handpan tuners had basically the same problem. When you have a handpan, it's got the inside space, so there's the hole in the bottom and there's air inside of here, but it's enclosed, right? So since it's an enclosed area, the sound waves vibrate at certain natural frequencies. And so sometimes certain notes will not sound good because it matches or conflicts with that internal vibration that's going on, the way it's resonating inside. So frequently there's like one or two notes that sound a little bit funky. So we try to avoid those, and that's why sometimes you don't have regular major scales or regular chromatic scales. It's because those frequencies don't always work out to complete that scale in a really nice way. So what we've basically done is figured out the scales that sound really good with the size of drum that we have. And so here's another one. This is the Equinox. And this is just a one-off. So if anybody out there wants this one, you have to give us a call now because it's the only one we have. Otherwise, it would become a custom order. But I like this one. It's pretty cool. It's got this one's F, so F, A, F, A flat, C, D flat, E flat, F, G, A flat, C. So like this has a C, this one has a C. So there's certain notes that are the same, but certain ones that are different. So for instance, these two scales, even though like the D and the F work together, the D, F, and the C work together, if I play all of these notes together, I'm just going to play two drums at once. I know you can't see the one that's off to the side here, but I'm going to play the notes straight up, and you're going to hear how some of them conflict and some of them are harmonious. Like those work. Those don't. Those do. Both of those are G's. Both of those are F's. Those don't work because one's an E and one's an E flat. Those don't work because one's of a D and one's a D flat. C works together. A and A flat doesn't sound good. And then we've got these two, which sort of work together. So you can see a lot of people say, hey, which handpan will sound good with another handpan, and what scale will work really well with another scale. To some degree, we can kind of generally say like a Celtic minor, D minor Celtic minor will sound good with a D minor chord, for instance, because the chord has like an extra B flat, whereas all of the other notes are pretty much the same. But if you're exploring other options, you really kind of need to do your best to try to find one and play it with the handpan that you already have, or at very least maybe get a recording of one and see if, like, when you play it on the recording or a video, play along with it, and if it works and if it sounds good, then I would say go for it. But if it's got little conflicting notes like these, it might not be what you want. So anyway, this is a beautiful scale. It's called the F Equinox.
They're asking how much, Dave.
How much?
Shanna Bell is asking how much. Look, you're doing a live sale and you don't even know
Whoa, live sale. Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you send us an email and we'll get back to you on that one? Because I don't want to start saying something and then all of a sudden I made a mistake and get myself all sorts of problems.
Maybe Carrie on the back end will send an email. Shanna.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Send an email.
Yeah,
Please.
It's a gorgeous handpan though.
It might be on the site, so I don't know.
So the cool thing about this scale is you hear how it has this like minor, F minor sound there. But if you, instead of playing the C here and you play this D flat over here, all of a sudden it becomes a D flat major. So it's got some really interesting things where you can go back and forth and measure. Right? And then over here you've got some fun stuff where you can kind of go back and forth. And then go back to your right. So it's got some really cool options. I love playing the high notes. I like playing those like that, sustaining them. So you can make all sorts of fun music with it. It's got all the great harmonics. You know, anyway, I can go off on these things forever. But anyway, so that's the F Equinox. Like I said, it's the only one we have. So if I know somebody out there is already interested, but if you're interested, send us an email. We'd love to follow up with you. It's got the no bottom notes, so it's just the top notes only. But anyway, I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about the scales and how they are slightly different here and there. And there are ultimately, you know, almost endless scales, because a tuner could say, hey, you know, I'm going to add one more note, or I'm going to remove one note from that current scale, and so they can kind of be endless. But there are some typical scales that people have kind of gravitated towards, and the industry has kind of gravitated towards. So scales like Pygmy is one that I've heard of, and we don't have one here on hand right now. Pygmy, Celtic Minor, Equinox. There's others out there that I'm sure people would love to talk about. So if you guys want to talk about scales, you can talk about it in the comment section. That'd be fun too. All right, so that's a little bit about scales. If there's no
Open up a can of worms there, Dave.
Yeah. If there's no other questions about scales, if anybody has a question about scale out there, let us know.
The question that who was it? I'm sorry. Name Marsh.
Yes.
It's going to be about the 432 tuning.
Let's
so when
do
you
it.
do
Let's
when
do
you
it.
do you want to do that now, or you want it
We
when
can
you
do it now
get to
because
it?
we were talking about scales, and
All right.
that's perfect. Yeah.
Here's a big one. I'm going to do a little bit of reading here.
Is it a paragraph?
It is kind of it's a couple
All right,
paragraphs.
let's do it.
All right. Hello all, thrilled to be here. I am new to DII. Let's see, blah blah blah. I'm a working musician, 432 pan. Okay. Whoa. Uh-oh. Did you hear the piano?
Cat.
Yeah, the cat's on the piano. Oh, wow. I was like, hey, somebody's playing. All right. Okay, my real question is 432. All I have ever known is Rockefeller's 440 hertz. Aside from healing qualities and strictly from a sound quality standpoint, do you notice any difference in tonality, overtones, resonance, clarity, or anything else between the 440 and 432 hertz? That's the first question.
Okay.
Okay, and let's see. I will be working with his wife, is a great Reiki master, and I am curious about your audience experience with pans on 432, animals, horses. Oh well, maybe I can answer that one for you. I actually no, I haven't done any of that. I guess that would be the thing. The second question, yeah.
Okay. Let me just bring out this whiteboard. Can you guys see it? Can you see it?
They can't. Hold on. Let me see if I can adjust for you here.
It's a little bit bright, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit bright. Let me bring down the brightness.
Oh, that looks pretty good.
There you go.
That looks
Right
pretty
there.
good. Okay.
Can everybody see that? Yeah.
Yeah, you'll see on where I've listed 440, and you can see some waves. So I created waves that are going back and forth. Okay, you see those hills and valleys, and I labeled the top line 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 432 is a lower number, and you can see that line below it, and you can see those waves, but you can only see 1, 2, 3 waves. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you there is hertz is basically vibrations per minute or per second. And so 440 is going to have more waves it's going to have 440 of those peaks and valleys, or peaks only. I cannot, not really, don't remember quite. But 432, you're going to have just a few less peaks and valleys. So it's going to be longer waves, and there's going to be fewer of them. So that's the ultimate translation of this whole 440 versus 432 is simply the vibrations. Instead of going 440 per second, they're 432, so they're just a longer wavelength. So that's kind of like the theory behind it. As far as the spirituality or how it works with the human body, all that sort of thing, I think there's going to be discussions on both sides. Some people will say it doesn't matter. Some people will say it totally affects them in a certain way, and it does matter. My own experience as a tuner, since I'm surrounded by 440 hertz instruments constantly, when I do a 432 instrument, I think my body and my brain does notice a difference. For instance, sometimes when I've played a 432 handpan, I don't get a big reaction, but I kind of my body just kind of goes, and that's pretty much what that's my reaction. It's kind of my head tilts, and I kind of go, something's a little different. And it's one of those things where, like, if I didn't know it was a 432 versus a 440, I'm not sure exactly if my body would react the same way, because I'm not sure if I've ever done like a test where I've like somebody, said, I'm not going to tell you which one it is, but play it and tell me what you think. I've never done that. I should do that. That'd be kind of fun, actually, Daniel.
Yeah, yeah, I should.
Yeah, but that has been my experience as a tuner, and I think it's maybe because my ear is so accustomed to that 440 frequency that I do hear a slight drift or a slightly fewer vibrations per second. The other thing, too, is like I was mentioning earlier with the scales, there are natural vibrations that occur within the instrument, and so sometimes like a note will sound good at 440, but as soon as you bring it down, it might start touching one of those other frequencies that's inside the instrument naturally occurring, and it might either start to distract or become dissonant with it, or the opposite could happen. You could have a note that was slightly dissonant, and you bring it down to 432, and all of a sudden it sounds more clear. But every note is slightly different, the way it vibrates and reacts with those frequencies within the instrument. So it's like a little balancing act. But in general, 432, my experience, some people really like it. Another thing you have to be just wary of is if you get a 432 instrument and everybody else has 440 instruments that are tuned to 440 hertz, there is going to be a noticeable difference with how they sound together. I wish I had one here for you to hear that, and I think we've done it on a video before. But it is dissonant. It's not quite as dissonant as like I was showing you here earlier. It's not that dissonant, but it's just slightly dissonant. And so if you're playing with a bunch of people that have instruments that are 440, say a lot of people have singing bowls, or those crystal bowls. If those are 440 bowls and you have a 432 handpan, it's going to always be a little bit dissonant. So you need to make sure that when you're playing with a 432 instrument, that the other instruments you're playing along with are also tuned to 432 hertz as well. So, Daniel, do you have any other thoughts on there? Or
honestly, I haven't played too many 432 instruments, and I think it all depends on what you're trying to do, or you're trying, like, especially in the sound healing realm. And 432, I don't know if there's enough science on it to actually say whether it affects you or not. I know it's, from my knowledge, I know it's like the frequency, supposedly the frequency of the earth, and it's supposed to like ground you better or something like that. But don't take my word for it. I haven't really studied it. Those are things that I've just heard. And if you have 432 and you're playing, you're not going to know the difference unless you have another 440. Like, yeah, right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
or if you almost. Like I was saying, like sometimes my body and like the way I just react to it, I can kind of tell there's something different, and sometimes I can't put my finger on. I'm like, there's something different.
Yeah, but we have that. I don't know if that 432 rental. I want to try, like, just play it just to see what the differences are, and then go from there. I haven't had enough time to actually do that, so.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's always a hot topic. People love that topic.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
always asking questions about 432 versus 440.
Yeah.
What were the questions on that first paragraph? Towards the end, you said something like,
Let's see.
I wanna make
Aside
sure I
from the
cover
hip,
everything.
the differences of tonality, overtones, resonance, clarity, or anything else between 440 and 432. That's kind of a broad question.
Okay, yeah, well,
yeah.
there's two things in there I wanted to address. So overtones and then clarity. So overtones, when I tune these notes, I tune harmonics to them, right? So it's not just the note, but it's also the harmonics that I'm tuning, and other tuners do it as well. So if you tune like a D, which is this, down to a D, which is 432, you're also going to be lowering that fifth that's tuned here and the octave. So all of those are coming down. Every single note, every single harmonic that's tuned on the instrument is going to be lower and have fewer wavelengths per second. So that's just, I just want to let you know, so it's not just the one note that you would be changing, but like all of those frequencies would be coming down to match that 432 frequency set, I guess you could call them. So it's just on that point, I just wanted to make sure. And then clarity, like I was talking about a little bit earlier, the size of the handpan matters. If you have one scale that sounds good on a 21-inch diameter handpan, if you do 432, there might be a note or two that either sounds better or slightly worse. So, and we're talking like minute here, but some people with a good ear might be able to detect, like, oh, this sounds a little bit better on that tuning, like a 440 sounds better versus 432. So it gets to be really nuanced and really nerdy. So it is one of those things where if you're a beginner and you've never really played an instrument before, you're probably not going to notice these differences. However, if you've been involved with music and you've been doing recording for years and years, and you're always thinking about, like, with your little digital tuner on your guitar or on a piano or whatever it is, you might actually notice some of these things. But overall, it's fairly nuanced, so it's not something that's really like where it's strikingly different. It's one of those very subtle things.
I would say so too. Yeah. Again, I haven't had that much experience on them, so I haven't played too much. So I should do it. I know we have one, so whenever the rental comes in, I'll mess around with it.
Yeah. All right. Does anybody else have any questions?
Oh yeah, actually,
gonna,
Chris the Canadian. Okay.
Yes.
Chris the Canadian. I don't know if he's in Canada. Dings. Why are most dings that I've been seeing anyway an Audi, and what does doubling, like having smaller dimples on the top of a larger one, like you have in front of you?
Yeah.
yeah. Some have Audis, some have innies. So why, Dave?
Yes. Okay. Everybody loves the questions about the dimples and all this sort of thing too. So the dimple,
right.
all it really does is a steel drum. For instance, a steel drum preceded the handpan. So steel drums were made in Trinidad and developed in Trinidad back in the 40s and 50s, and they started tuning harmonics to them in the 50s and 60s and that sort of thing. And they've developed over time. And you play them with mallets, and they're made out of steel barrels. But the notes are generally just like a panel without, like, kind of like these notes, but just without the dimple, right? And it's tuned very similarly. It's got an octave, it's got a fifth, all that sort of thing. But there's no dimple, and so they have a very bright sound. So that's the whole point of the dimple. The dimple basically mellows out the note. It makes it have more of a mellow sound. So depending on the size of the dimple, if you have a really large dimple, sometimes it will make the note sound very, very muted or not as bright. And if you have a dimple that's super small, the note might actually sound a little brighter, like kind of more like a steel drum. The depth of the dimple, it may not be exactly as apparent as the size of the dimple, but sometimes the depth of the dimple may affect how bright it is as well. As far as like these are both oval dimples here. This one over here. Can you see that one, Daniel?
Yes.
All right, so this one's circular in the center. It's kind of a traditional shape. But I also did do like a little extra on the edge here, the perimeter of that D note.
So size does matter.
Size matters, yeah. But like this one over here, This one over here is more of an oval shape. And
Yeah.
it's flat and it doesn't have that secondary dimple on it. So what I notice with these is sometimes I can hear like a really high-end frequency, kind of like a metallic attack. So when you strike it with your finger, it kind of goes ding, but it's not really a pitch. It's just
Yeah,
kind
it
of like
does. Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it. It's just like this really kind of a thing that's.
It's
way up
cool.
the top.
They're all,
I mean,
yeah. They all sound good. I would say
Yeah.
it's just different sounds.
Yeah, and when you stack them, I think it takes some of that away a little bit. On this one, sorry, I don't want to knock anything over here.
Don't do it.
Yeah. So on this one, I have the regular standard dimple in the middle, and then you see how this border here, and it just kind of made the dimple a little bit larger. I kind of like to have a slightly larger dimple these days because basically, like what I was telling you, it kind of mellows out the note a little bit, and gives it a little bit of a punchier sound. So
Yeah, I like it. I like that too, Dave. Actually.
I'm a little bit of a proponent of the larger dimple sizes.
Sweet.
Ah, there we go. Yeah. All right. Anything else on the
Yes, we had. Oh, actually, hopefully that answered your question, Chris, about the dings, the inner and the outer. Actually, I did learn something. I didn't know that the size of the inner really, if you made those bigger, the tone would go down. That's kind of crazy. So for all you tuners out there.
Yeah, I mean, they always just change things slightly. It's very nuanced.
Well, it makes sense actually. So
yeah.
you know.
I forgot to mention the ones that are outward versus inward. So
yes.
Ultimately, that doesn't matter too much. Like all of these notes here, those are inward. This one's outward. It's just a little bit more fun to strike one that's outward on the top here. That's my. But as far as tuning, I've tuned ones that go in, and it's a similar tuning style. Sometimes there might be like a little change in how the note is tuned. But
you've had one.
Overall, it sounds pretty much the same. So.
Yeah, I think one of the rentals had one. Did they?
Oh yeah, probably.
I think one of the rentals. Like I see them every once in a while. I'm like, oh yeah, it's an innie.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Chris said yes. That was awesome. Actually, the next question is Diva D.
Diva D.
Hi there. What scales can the RS-12 play? This is a good question.
Oh, there's all sorts of scales. So actually, if you want to explore all that stuff, we've got a thing on our website. I don't know if I can go there right now.
Here, I'll go. I'll go there.
Oh, you can go there? Okay.
I think so. Wait, hold on. I have to set it up here.
Well,
right,
yeah,
there we
you
go.
just go to, where is it?
Where are we going?
I don't know. It looks different than on my phone.
I got it,
I
Dave.
go here on my phone.
Where are we going? You go to...
I wanted to go to...
Classes? Classes?
Classes, that's what it was. So it's under, what is it, services? Oh, classes, that's right.
I'm trying
so if
to
you go
hit
to
it.
classes,
What's that?
you can go to online music courses. That's the one right there. So online music courses.
Mine's not working.
I
don't know why.
Got mine going here. So you go there, and there's me.
Services?
And then you click on the Explore the Classes.
That's
and
not
it takes you to the DII community.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Yep.
Online music
community.
courses, DII
Yep.
community.
Yep.
An easy way to play and learn. Boom, boom, boom. And Dave
right
does do the scales in there.
Yeah, right here I've got the RS-12 player guide. Over here, the RS-12 player guide intervals. This one's more of a player guide with scales. So if you log in there, I explore all of these things in detail. I actually have PDF things that you could download, all that sort of thing. But let me just give you a little overview, just real quick. So basically, this is a D minor scale. I had the G here. That even works with the D minor, the F. Right? So it's D minor. If you leave the D out and you start on the F, it becomes more of an F major. Right? Then you can go back to D minor if you want. By using that D, go back to F. So that's one thing. Over here, if you start on the G, that's a G chord, like a G major. But since this is an F natural, it's not quite a G major. But you can kind of play G, like an F here. options for G. Over here you can play C, C, D, E. So you can play your C chord. I'm playing G over here on the bottom with the C and the E over here on the left. C major, and then over here if I want to play G, like that. All right, so I kind of got like a C major thing. You can also do A minor. So A minor is pretty good. Those are just a few. There might be a couple others that are pretty good, but when you add in those bottom notes, you can really explore several different scales on the RS-12 and kind of do all sorts of fun stuff. With just the top, you can also explore some of those options, but it works better if you have maybe a guitar or piano playing along with you. It kind of makes it more obvious, or a bass. But you can, if I'm just playing the top notes, for instance, this is an F major, C major, back to F, C. You can kind of do a G chord here, right? So you can kind of play around with certain options of different chords, different scales. Sometimes you have to just imagine them as a part of the scale, not the complete scale. So as a musician, you can kind of just toy around with that a little bit and hint at this scale, hint at that chord, that sort of thing. But it's got, I like this scale. It's got a lot of options for playability and that sort of thing. So I enjoy it. So there you go.
Yeah, the RS-12 is awesome. Yeah, it's fun like that. Actually, while we're doing those videos and you did all the scales, I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. I don't know, 12 or 13 scales,
yeah,
whatever it is.
I think you played them all for me, and I was like, wow, that was amazing. It was really cool.
Yep, those are pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, anything else about scales?
I think Diva said that was awesome. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Diva.
Yeah, so no more questions.
There was something I wanted to talk about. I just moved along to playing a lot, but a lot of people have questions that are beginners about how to get the sound. A lot of beginners have a tendency to touch the notes like this, and when they touch the note, it doesn't really make a sound. So somebody showed me this a long time ago, but the doorbell, or what do you call this? Door? It's not really a doorbell, so whatever.
It's a service bell.
Service bell, there you go. So service bell, if you push this little thing down, it keeps the bell from ringing. So you have to allow your finger to come off of it, right, in order for it to ring. So this is a really good way of learning how to play the note. It's the same motion.
Yeah, it's perfect.
If you touch it and then it mutes the bell, it's going to do the same thing and mute the note here. Right? But if you lift your hand off of it, then it works. So if you're struggling with getting a handpan to quote-unquote work for you, try getting a little service bell like that. And just practice. Maybe get two of them. Go ding dong ding dong ding dong ding dong ding dong ding dong.
That'd be kind of cool.
Fun. Yeah.
Different keys.
You get a whole different keys. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a trainer. The trainer handpan.
Yeah, but those are great to get started with as far as learning how to touch and get the sounds out of the instrument that you want. Finishes. This one here is a stainless steel. Ours are kind of like a goldish color. That's why we have it named the Auris, because Auris means gold. We also have the Gaia. The Gaia model is made out of nitrided metal. Has maybe a slightly warmer sound and maybe just a slightly less sustained than the Auris stainless steel. But it has the kind of a bluish appearance, darkish gray blue. Sometimes it has a little bit of a mottled appearance to it sometimes compared to the really clean gold finish here. And so it's just the way the metal is created, and it's just the way it is. And a lot of people have questions about it. Both of these, the nitrided and the stainless, are also really good with moisture, so you don't have to worry about moisture rusting it. So if you have a plain steel instrument, plain steel meaning just like regular old steel that a shovel would be made out of. So if you had just like a regular plain steel instrument and it's painted, the paint will probably repel moisture and that sort of thing for a period of time. But over time, if it gets scratched or whatever, moisture, even just in the air, will get into that crack and start to create little spots of rust. So you always have to make sure that you're taking care of the instruments. I just want to show you how we take care of these. So we talked about cleaning instruments one time before, and somebody complained to me because I guess they did something like use whatever I was using and it didn't work on the handpan that they have. So these are specific ways that we use on DIY handpans. So if you have a question about how to clean a handpan that you own that's not made by us, make sure you talk to the person who made it and ask them how to clean it properly. But so I just use like this regular old stainless steel cleaner here. I like this one. This one works pretty good. And I'll just spray it on and just kind of wipe it off. And this is something I would do maybe once a week or immediately after playing it outdoors at any place that's moist. So like say you're up in the mountains in the summer and it's a humid evening, or has like clouds are coming in, marine layer, whatever, something like that, and it's kind of moist and foggy. Just make sure that when you take it out, when you take it home, that you make sure it gets dry, or wherever you're keeping it, storing it, make sure that it just stays dry. Maybe even take it out of the case when you get home, or even if you're driving in the car, you might want to open up the case just a little bit to allow the moist air to get out of the case and dry air to get inside. And then just wipe it down with the stainless cleaner. Same thing with the nitride, the nitro that I've been using recently. I've just been using stainless cleaner on it, and it seems to be working just fine. So the stainless cleaner works for the nitrided and for the stainless. If you ever play at the beach, it's really important that you make sure that that salty air is specifically, and also with the nitrided instruments, any kind of beach environment that has salt water. Sometimes the salt can even get into the air and the moisture in the air around a beach. The saltiness can actually affect the color of these instruments. For instance, this little spot right here on this one, and this one's the one that Daniel uses actually, so it's not for sale. But this little spot right here, it looks like it was like a piece of salt, and I tested it at some point, and it doesn't actually eat into the metal, it just takes off the gold color, interestingly. So the gold color kind of just disappears or wipes away, but the stainless steel is still there and it's still just fine. So
we got a question, Dave.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah. No, that what you're talking about is awesome, because right now the question kind of leads into that. And Delaney Hackney says, hello from Baja.
Right.
I'm wondering about playing outside in the direct sun. Maybe if not, it's necessarily hot, but still in the sun.
Yeah, no worries. So the sunlight has UV rays, and those UV rays will warm things up, right? So like we get sunburns on our skin. It's not like it's going to burn the metal, but it's going to heat it up, just like your car, right? You get in your car, if you touch the metal on your car, it's like super hot when it's on a hot day. So what happens with steel is it expands and contracts. So if it gets hot, it expands. If it gets cold, it contracts. So what can sometimes happen on the tuning of a handpan is if the sun is like shining predominantly over here, one of these notes might go out of tune, or frequently it's the larger notes that go out of tune. So like the ding might go out of tune. Frequently they go flat and it sounds like it's way out of tune. You go, oh my gosh, what happened to my handpan? It's like really out of tune. But typically when you get it out of the sun and you put it back in the shade and let it cool down for 5-10 minutes and basically acclimate to all of the regular heat of the air, the surrounding air, then it usually goes back into tune. So that's usually the issue. But the funny thing is, like if you're playing the handpan in direct sunlight, usually it gets pretty hot on your hands too, so it's not even really that comfortable to play in the sunlight anyway, because your hands on the steel, it gets to be really hot. So yeah, the recommendation is to play it underneath like a palm tree or in the shade or under an umbrella, something like that.
Absolutely.
Caves are awesome.
Caves are awesome. Oh my God.
Yeah, caves are awesome. So the direct sunlight, it usually will put it out of tune temporarily, but usually not permanently. With one possible situation where it could permanently put it out of tune. If the notes were already in a condition where they weren't completely settled, like Slave the Tuner, which was like, I don't know, did a rush job or something, and maybe the note just wasn't settled, the Sun could make it drift out of tune, and it might stay out of tune just slightly, in which case you would need to get it tuned up again. But it's not. It's usually, even with that, you would get it tuned up, and it usually goes back into tune, and it's not an issue after that typically.
Cool.
There
Another question. Boom. Yeah. Chris the Canadian.
Hey, we're rocking with questions tonight, but
no, that's awesome.
By the way, Daniel, hold on before you. Yeah. So we changed this time. We used to do it on Saturday afternoons, and we were wondering, well, maybe people would respond more in the evenings on a weeknight, and it really seems like they are. So thanks for all the questions. I like this. I like all the questions. This is great. So go ahead, Chris.
Chris the Canadian, is that handpan gold from heat treatment, or is it painted? Actually, this is a good question.
Yeah, you got all the building questions. I love it. So, this one is a heat treated. I think I did it 650 degrees in a kiln. I've got a kiln, and so it kind of creates that gold color, which I really like. I like using the kiln because it's very even, and it makes the same color each time.
Actually, that'd be my question. All stainless steel, they do put in a kiln, and it all comes out that color. Is that correct? For other makers also?
Well, there's different grades of stainless steel. So, like I've used a different kind of stainless steel before, and the gold color came out more like 600 degrees, whereas this stainless steel comes out at 650. So you have to kind of play around with it a little bit, but it's and you can also use scraps metal. You can use scrap metal, like little pieces like this, if you want to explore the idea. Just put it into your, like, even in your, well, as long as it's clean, clean stainless steel. You could put it even into your regular oven and turn it up to like 350 degrees or 500 degrees just to see what kind of colors come out.
Really? I didn't.
Yeah, if you want to get a kiln, if you want to get a kiln that goes higher, kilns go up to 2,000 degrees or whatever. So you can explore those just with scraps of metal. So that way you don't have to put the whole thing in there and worry that you're not going to get it right the first time.
Tips from a tuner. That's awesome.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good questions, Chris. And I think that's it for now.
All right. So we talked about stainless, nitrided plane finishes. We talked about how to clean them. We talked about 432. We talked about doorbell. We talked about harmonics, scales. I think we're done, Daniel.
That sounds awesome. Actually, let's see. I'm checking. Great point. Oh, the handpan lady. Oh, I'm just seeing. I think there was a comment. The handpan lady had a comment.
Oh yes,
this is a good comment. I played at a Reiki class for a while and played a 432 handpan, and honestly, the class couldn't tell the difference, and I'm not sure I could either. So.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of where you're at with it. Is like I think the layperson won't know, but if you do recordings or if you do it for a specific purpose, let's say that actually the instrument is on somebody's body or like an individual experience, you might notice some kind of difference. But it's all going to be perceived difference. That person, you're going to have to ask that person if they felt this way or that about it, because I think it's just individual.
Yeah.
Individual experience. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything. Yeah, I have any more questions? Wait. Wait. Let me see. When forming the interstitial side, what exactly are you doing? Wow, this is a question. Wow, great questions. That's Chris Canadian.
Yeah, good old Chris Canadian. Yeah. Canada Chris? I can't remember. Anyway,
Chris the Canadian.
Interstitial. He's using the word interstitial. Interstitial means the metal that's between the notes. So not this note, not this note, not the dimple, but the metal that's between. And the metal that's between is usually muted and it is not tuned. So this is tuned and this is not tuned. Right? So he's just talking about the shaping. And what was the question about shaping?
What exactly are you doing when you're shaping?
I take a hammer and I just use a hammer to just push it back slightly, because what you're trying to do, when I do it, I'm doing several things at once. I'm giving it a slight curve, because if it has a slight curve, it's going to reduce the amount of vibrations. If the metal is flat, like perfectly flat, it's going to want to vibrate, and you're going to get all sorts of weird little nuanced vibrations or sounds that are vibrating that you don't want. So it needs to have a slight curve to it. then the
Tuner
other thing I
tip.
do,
Ding, ding, ding.
yeah, exactly. And the other thing too that when I'm going around the notes, I'm always thinking about tension when I'm hammering from the inside at this point around the note. I'm thinking about it like pulling tension, as if you're like pulling a rubber balloon and pulling it on either side of the balloon and making the balloon tight. Let's say it's not an inflated balloon, just a flat, deflated balloon. You're just taking that rubber, or even you could even talk about like saran wrap or something like that, whatever that wrap is that you put around your food. You're in a plastic wrap. You just tighten it, and it's going to make it tight in the middle of that saran wrap or that balloon or that rubber, right? So that's what I'm kind of thinking about when I shape the interstitial metal. So I'm tightening this area here, tightening that area, and trying to give it some shape and some tension even before I start tuning it. So that's a little bit of what I think about when I'm working on it.
Dave, that's awesome, actually. Chris, I'm with you, man. I ask him these questions sometimes because I think as a maker or tuner, those are the things that actually make your handpan, or those little tips that you talk about. So
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Actually, we have another question. Victoria Cleveland. Victoria, how you doing? Pickups. She said handpan or ukulele. I'll tell you about the ukulele already. Yes, I do pickups on a ukulele. I do have a pickup here. Just
So you're talking about pickups for ukulele or for handpan?
Yeah, for a handpan. She asked for both. So,
Okay.
The handpan, yes. I've used a pickup on a handpan. The magnetic
Yeah,
one.
that's right. You did. You had like a magnetic one or something like that.
I think I still have it.
Yeah. So yeah, my thought on magnetic pickups or something that you would attach to a handpan, like you might even be able to clip something onto the rim and it might actually pick up the sounds. It tends to have like most pickups tend to have like the non-perfect sound, but they might be completely appropriate if you're playing outside or live or something like that, where you're just playing for an audience. But maybe not for recordings. I wouldn't really suggest a pickup that attaches to the instrument for recordings. For recordings, I would probably suggest just regular old microphones. And you can either do stereo mics or top and bottom mics. There's all sorts of variations of microphones and microphone setups for recording. But I wouldn't really suggest some kind of a clip-on microphone for recording. It all depends on what you're trying to do to some degree. There was one. What was the company that made that one that we had for a while?
I was trying to look for it. I was just trying to look for it right now. Is it Ensol? Yeah.
Yeah, Ensol. ENSOUL, I think.
It's kind of cool. You just have to have the right setup, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I put it in there, like I had it under the goo and inside, and then I hooked it up. But then like you have to have like a good mixer to get like the sound that you want out of it, because it makes like this.
Yeah, you've got to EQ it a little bit.
You have to even it out with whatever's coming out of the handpan versus the thing. But it actually makes like almost like a cool reverb. I was playing it one time and it made like this cool reverb that was like, oh, and I had it going pretty well and it was pretty nice. But I always backed it up with a microphone, because you never know what.
Yeah, just in case.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen people use the Ensol microphone. I've heard some good. Like I even used it. I played around with it. It sounded pretty good to me. But still, again, I kind of prefer regular old microphones. When you're playing live, I know that it's a little bit problematic if you're playing with a band or something like that, where you start getting feedback with regular microphones, because the handpan is kind of a quiet instrument. So one of the best things to do is put your speakers in front of you so that the sound is going away and you're behind the speakers, so that way the feedback, like if you have the speaker here and you have a microphone here, the speaker goes right into the microphone, that goes back into the speaker, and that's why you get that feedback loop.
Dave,
right?
hit your mouse real quick.
My
on
mouse.
your computer.
Come on, man. There it is. All right. So
there you go.
so that's that feedback loop, right? So if you put the speakers over there, then the sound is going that way, and it's much harder for it to get back into the microphone to create that feedback. But I totally understand, like if you're playing live, sometimes feedback can be a problem if you're using regular mics. So a clip-on or a magnetic mic might actually be better for that circumstance.
Always test before.
Yep, got to test it out. Yeah.
Test before, be right before. and then hopefully it still works. That's so funny.
Hey, you know what, Daniel?
Yeah.
I'm actually pretty impressed. I think we have talked a lot about the handpan, and that's what we talked about, right? We said
No,
everything about
totally.
the handpan for this.
Chris has one more question. Here he goes.
Hold on, before Chris gets started.
All right,
Chris,
cool.
Hold on.
Go.
So I just want to let you know, there's one more topic we haven't talked about, and that's transporting the instrument. And a lot of people have questions about how to fly with it and that sort of thing. So let's talk about that real quick after
Yes.
Chris's question here.
Yes. Are you there?
I'm here, but I don't know what his question is.
Oh, you want his question? Oh, I thought.
Yeah, I don't know.
I thought we were gonna wait. All right, here we go.
I see.
All right, Chris. What's some advice would you give to a beginner builder? Ooh, this is a question. Good question.
Yes. No, beginner builders. The whole key is prepare to fail and don't take failure too seriously. Actually, just learn from every single failure because it's all about knowing what not to do. And so you've got to go through all those failures to know what not to do, right? So everyone is searching for success. That's what they're always searching for, is to figure out how to do it, quote unquote, right, or whatever. The first time they want to get in there and do it and figure it out in like 2 hours or whatever. But there are so many nuances to these instruments, and the way I build an instrument is different than the way somebody else builds an instrument, and that person builds differently than somebody else. And the materials are different and everything like that. Yeah, there's certain similarities along the way that you can get comfortable with and learn along the way. But it's something that you just, like, literally, like, people will still bring me handpans that I haven't built that say they got it off of Amazon.com or something like that. And they'll bring it to me, and I will, like, think that everything's pretty close, and I'll put my hammer on it, and all of a sudden it does the exact opposite of what I expected it to do. And so a little sweat starts to drip off my brow because I'm like freaking out because I'm like, oh my god, I might like be destroying this person's instrument. But what it usually ends up happening is like I'm learning in the moment. Like, oh, that didn't work. I just failed. So try the opposite. Okay, try this, try that. And so usually, I've been doing this for a long, long time, so I've seen a lot of different things through the years. So I'm usually able to correct myself if anything does go wrong. But that's what I'm getting at. It's like this perpetual learning experience. So just prepare yourself for perpetual learning. Yes, you do get into a rhythm after a while where it just becomes normal and you have your standard way of doing things. But as a beginner, like I remember there was a guy that learned how to make them, and he's doing well now making them. But I went to his house after maybe he was working on it for a couple of years, and he had literally like 50 shells. Like they were all outside of his garage, just like rusting away because they were all like failures. But he kept at it, and he's turned out to be a really great tuner. So I'm not saying that everyone's going to take 50 shells or more or whatever like that. Some people learn faster than others. But yeah, just prepare yourself for that kind of trajectory where it's going to be up and down, up and down.
That sounds like everything in life. That's kind of awesome.
Yeah, no, literally.
It totally does. That's so great. Hopefully that helps, Chris. That's awesome. Delaney's question. Delaney's question about playing in the direct sun. Oh, we already said that.
Oh, we did that. Yeah.
Yeah. We did that. You're gonna have to watch the rerun there, Handpan Lady. So.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think that's it.
I was going to talk about casing and traveling.
Traveling with
a lot of people say, like, how do I travel with it? Do I need to get a hard case and that sort of thing? I just usually suggest a backpack. And if you want to put like a little extra foam over the top of the instrument or like a hard shell or something like that, that's fine in a backpack. But putting it in a plane and carry-on luggage is probably the best option because you can actually see your instrument right there in front of you. Even if somebody opens it and moves it around, you can see it and you can address that problem in the plane on the flight. The problems usually occur that I've seen over the years. It doesn't matter how good the case is. It doesn't matter how expensive the case is, anything like that, because what typically happens is some kind of traumatic thing that is unexpected. And it's usually not somebody throwing it like into the luggage, carrying thing when they put it in the bottom of the plane. It's usually let's say somebody threw it and it fell off, and then this was something recently that somebody posted on Facebook that I saw. A forklift ran over their instrument. So
what?
in that case, there's nothing you can do.
There's nothing you can do on that.
So
Wow.
a forklift hit the instrument and just totally crushed it.
Oh my
And
god.
it, you know, obviously the guy had a great case. I mean, I saw it. He had a great case for it. Everything was the way you would want it to be in a perfect situation. But the imperfect situation arrived, and a forklift hit it. So his instrument got just demolished. And then there's been other instances too. Even myself, I was traveling with a steel drum at the time. We had cases. We had everything we needed with foam, with like double foam, all this stuff inside. But you have to remember that sometimes the agents at the airlines, they will inspect the cases to make sure there's nothing inside the case and that sort of thing. So sometimes those agents will take the instrument out, put it on a table, and oops, it just happens to fall off the table. And so, again, it doesn't matter if the instrument was in a case at that point because they put it on a table and it fell off the table. So, and then there was another instance where there was a hard case. They had like the super awesome hard case. And it had, the foam was like perfect. It matched the foam, like male, female, perfect like foam. It just like sat in there perfectly. But their one little issue that they didn't think about was they put like a phone charger, like the size of this thing inside the case. And they thought it was going to be safe because they thought nobody was going to open it. But they opened it to inspect it. And when they put it back in, they put the phone charger on top and then squished the lid back down and put everything on it too.
Oh my god.
So that's kind of what I'm getting at with traveling. So it's best to keep it on you as much as you can. There's been instances where I've had to put it, one time they said, we'll put it into the captain's closet, right? So that was, that was kind of nice. There's other instances, sometimes they'll put the instrument with a stroller. Say there's no more space in the overhead bins. They give you like a little extra tag and they will put it in with the strollers or whatever, stuff like that. And usually that's okay because they usually give it back to you as you're exiting the plane. But not always. There was one time at least that I was experimenting with that kind of thing and they ended up putting it into the baggage claim and it was way over in like I don't know, it was like the oversized or some kind of it wasn't like the regular turnstile baggage claim. It was like somewhere else. I was like looking at the turnstile like, where is it? Where did my drum go? And it was like way over on the other side of the room in like this like special whatever, special luggage area or something like that. But I don't think anything happened to it. Anyway, just FYI, when people have questions about traveling, I wish I could give them the perfect answer and say, oh, this is the perfect case for the perfect scenario and it will never get damaged. But things happen. So you can just do the best you can, and just usually just keeping care of it yourself, making sure that you don't drop it, or it doesn't fall out of the case when you're opening it or closing it, or if you have a backpack, making sure you set it down carefully, or if you have friends, making sure your friends don't like throw it across the room or whatever. So usually that's the things you need to be thinking about more so than like, is the luggage guy gonna take care of it properly?
Well, on the good side of that, Dave, that pan that you have right in front of you in
Yes, sir.
The month of September, it went on a tour of Europe. So we had planes, trains, and automobiles with that.
That's right. Yeah.
And just a regular bag. I actually put clothes inside, like I had it packed inside. That was part of my clothes.
Oh,
so
like you put
kind
clothes
of kept
inside
it.
here.
Yeah, no, actually I had like flat
Okay,
packs over
Oh.
it, and it kind of like it acted like a cushion. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I had a little
Is
bit of
it-
extra space in there, so and it.
Yeah, as long as it's like soft clothing, no zippers. You wouldn't want to
Yeah,
have any
yeah,
zippers
no.
next to it because the zippers could scratch it or whatever. But yeah, soft clothing,
I
underwear,
had those
underwear,
plastic.
socks. You can put.
I had those plastic bags that like you can suck up, and then I put it on
Oh, yeah.
top, and it acted like a cushion. It was kind of.
Oh, got it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That'll
yeah.
work. Yep.
Yeah, it was like really awesome, and I didn't have any issues. I think I checked it one time. It was kind of crazy. We had to.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes that's the way it works out. You gotta
Yeah,
check it.
sometimes you have to
At
check
that point,
it.
you just pray and just hope
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
works out.
But you know what? I hear all the horror stories, but I've gone on a lot of travels, and I haven't had any. So I guess it's just a matter of when just like you said, a forklift or anything like that.
Yeah, and that guy that happened to his forklift, he's a professional steel drum guy,
Yeah.
and he travels frequently. So I mean, he's probably been traveling for 10 years, 20 years. I don't know how long he's been
And
out
it's
there
only
traveling,
happened
doing
once.
his gigs and stuff. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was pretty severe when it happened and unfortunate. But
Be prepared, but it doesn't happen that often. So that's what I'm saying. Don't be scared to travel with your handpan.
Exactly, that's
The joy of it, like honestly, being with you, it's amazing. Like you get to play in some amazing spots. Sometimes it's hard to trek and pack, but honestly, the joy that I get out of it on vacation, because you want to do things that you wanted to do that were fun, right? One is play music, right?
Yeah.
That's what I would say. Yeah. Cool.
All right, man.
Diva, no, I don't put lock on the zippers.
Oh yeah.
That's what.
You know, speaking of locks, if you're talking about giving it to an airline person, they're just gonna break it open.
Yeah.
They're gonna take the lock off and they're gonna inspect it anyway. So I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm like Mr. Pessimistic about the whole airline thing, but
yeah. Hey, the best is just having it on you.
But I mean, it's true. Yeah.
Having with
If
you
you
always.
did want to put something on it, I would suggest one of those little plastic zip ties, because if they need to take it off, they can just clip it off. Otherwise, it just stays there, and most people aren't gonna try to get through a zip tie.
And if they're gonna take it, they're just gonna take it. So. They're not gonna unzip the whole bag and like, oh yeah, try it. Cool. All right, Dave.
It's fun now.
Yeah, I know.
All right, man. I'm gonna sit here and play, and you can do your thing and turn me off or something.
All right, guys. You guys, we had an awesome time tonight. I'm glad. Thank you for all the questions. This is great for the handpan community, because I know there's a lot of questions and there's a lot. We only can get to so many people, so this is good. Keep it coming, and we try to make the experience as great as possible, because these are beautiful instruments. For me, I've seen, it's just people getting the stories that we have. Actually, we have an awesome story, and I can't wait to share that one. Probably next month we'll have an interview. Hopefully we can get with this gentleman talking about the healing qualities of the instrument. And this is pretty amazing, because I've heard a couple of these kinds of stories, and this is firsthand from a person, and it's wow. So I'll keep you guys hanging on that one. But Dave can lead us out with some beautiful tunes and some good vibes. In a couple weeks, if you guys are local, check out our events calendar. We have a handpan jam class, or for beginners, whatever. Usually, like the last one, there's 14 people that signed up, but the rain killed them all. But we had it. We still had right. Actually, we had a great time, because still some people from Arizona came out and still made it. I was like,
oh, wow. That's cool. Yeah. Nice.
We had a good time doing that. So yeah, check it out this time. Hopefully the weather's good and we'll have a lot more people. But it's fun whether it's just 4 of us or 13 or 20. That's probably the max we can fit in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, check out our events calendar. That's coming up, and more to come from DII, right, Dave?
That's
yes. Right. All right, so let me leave you with Dave, and we will sign off.
All righty. Thanks, Daniel.
Yep.
See you next time.